There is wisdom in all of it. A really gifted musician to me is somebody who can change tempo, change feel, change rhythm, and still maintain a sense of what their music's relationship is to time. So now, let's get to the whiteboard, huh? Go on, hop up on your soapbox. Ba-da-da-da. So it's becoming more widely understood through things like string theory, quantum physics, our new understanding of what consciousness is and how it exists within matter, or how it perhaps generates matter. We've got a situation here, right, where we understand our existence through dimensions. Now, obviously, this is a two-dimensional representation, right? So I can't really show depth here, but I can show the idea of depth. So if this is your x-axis, if this is your y-axis, and if that's your z-axis there, you've got 3 dimensions, yeah? Now, from here, we have another interesting dimension, an aspect of this cube or rectangular prism that now that I have made it, it enters into our comprehension, our perception, our existence, and it gains another aspect, which is duration. How long is it here? If we can't tell how long a thing is here or not, we cannot tell if it exists. So now, we have to see how long this thing exists. If I left this whiteboard here and just walked away from it, eventually, over time, this would fade and disappear, and we would say that it is dead, or it no longer exists. Or I could do something just like this. And suddenly we could measure its length, its width, its height, and its duration. We could say that just lasted for 68 seconds, or whatever it is. But a lot of people want to think of time like this. A line. And we think of beats or rhythm as occurring like this. Bop, 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 bop. But that's not really the nature of time. As Richard Powers in his book, The Overstory, which if you haven't read, please read this book. As Powers points out, many different creatures exist in many different timescapes. So to us, a lifetime may seem like nothing at all compared to an oak tree or a redwood, which has been around for 1,500 years. And the life of a gnat is only, one day, and we go, oh, what a short life. Well, that's relative. If a gnat lives 25 hours, they might be considered an ancient elder. Yeah? So really what Powers says is that time is more like the rings of a tree or ripples on water. And that is actually the nature of how time is moving. It's not that time moves in a line. It's that time moves in concentric circles. Each outer layer, or each, when it is the outer layer, is considered the present moment. So you are there. And time is moving outward in all directions. Now, please don't forget, this is a two-dimensional representation. Time is actually moving in 3 dimensions. And as we start gleaning more from the higher dimensions or other dimensions, we're going to start to see that time moves through those dimensions as well. In yoga, this is what's called krama. You hear all this hashtag wisdom out there. People going, karma's a bitch. Oh, shut the f***. I can't stand when people use enlightened concepts to sort of justify their own shallow thinking. Yeah, if you think karma's a bitch, you should study krama. Karma means action. It doesn't mean the law of cause and effect. It just means action. You've got karma, you've got kriya, and you've got krama. Now, krama means the smallest possible change of something. Think about it. The moment you make a chair, if you were to leave it alone, eventually that chair will turn itself back into soil. If you erect a building, and if you could sit in that building long enough, and you didn't do anything to it, no repairs, no maintenance, no upkeep, eventually that building, even if it's made of steel and concrete and all this, will return itself to soil. And krama is the smallest possible perceptible change that occurs. If one starts to pursue music or meditation, because those two are not unrelated, you start to witness your ability, your awareness to perceive subtle, tiny changes over smaller and smaller amounts of time. If you'd like to, you can think of it sort of like measure, right? We measure things by slicing them up. Say this is an inch. 1 inch. Now within that inch, you can get smaller and 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 smaller until you get to what is essentially like a plate of time, light, sound, whatever it is. And that being that one tiniest perceptible change is krama. Now that might seem a little weird, but it's out there. Go look it up. When you study music, this is what you're studying, right? Let's get back to the keys. So because my primary instruments are the piano and the guitar, these are both instruments that when I strike a note, from that moment on, it is diminishing. Just like a building, just like sound, right? Unlike something like maybe a bowed instrument or a wind instrument that can be played ongoing, like an organ, or a dronal instrument, like maybe a harmonium or something. A piano, in order to make sound increase, I have to strike again. Same goes for the guitar. Same goes for the banjo, right? The banjo has no sustain. So when it comes to music and time, here's what I want to offer. It takes time. I'm going through a tremendous change right now. I'm studying music, and I want to get these things right now, right here. I want to get them, and I want to practice a thing once or twice and have it, and no longer think about how difficult it is. But that's not the point. The point, I think, is if you study music, if you really investigate music, it can make you both aware of time and it can make you feel free of time. You start releasing any sense of urgency. You start investigating how much time it really takes to get something under your fingers or into your brain. And if you sit and really check it out, you'll see that, as Ben Folds says, human beings are time stupid. We have to measure out this weird, organic, cosmic, chaotic thing that we call as time by ticking seconds. And those seconds add up to make minutes. And those minutes add up to make hours. And those hours add up to make months and years and lifetimes and yada, yada, yada. But I suggest investigating this a little bit more. Now, we're going to say more about time down the road because you can't cover it all in one episode. But I'll leave you with a little something that Ben Folds himself wrote from his album Songs for Silverman. He actually has a song titled Time. Right? And in time I will fade away. In time I won't care what you're saying in time. But time takes time enough. Time takes time enough.